Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pūrvajāḥ Stotadashata Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Abhayacharna Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pūrvajāḥ Stotadashata Sri Srimad, Bhakti Siddhanta Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Hare Krishna, today we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, entitled Description of the Kingdom of God. Text numbers 12 and 13. Please repeat. Brahmā uvāca.
Brahmovāca.
Mānasāḥ. Me. Sutāḥ. yuṣmat. pūrvajāḥ. sanaka-ādayaḥ. ceruḥ. vihāyasā. lokān. lokeṣu. vigata-spṛhāḥ. brahmovāca. mānasā me sutā yuṣmat. pūrva-jāḥ sanaka-ādayaḥ. cerur vihāyasā lokāl. lokeṣu vigata-spṛhāḥ. brahmovāca. mānasā me sutā yuṣmat. pūrva-jāḥ sanaka-ādayaḥ. cerur vihāyasā lokāl. lokeṣu vigata-spṛhāḥ. Brahmā-uvāca. mānasā me sutā yuṣmat. pūrva-jāḥ sanaka-ādayaḥ. cerur vihāyasā lokāl. lokeṣu vigata-spṛhāḥ. Word for word. Brahmā-uvāca. Lord Brahmā said. Mānasāḥ. Born from the mind. Me. My. Sutāḥ. Sons. yuṣmat. Then you. Pūrvajāḥ. Born previously. Sanaka-ādayaḥ. Headed by Sanaka. ceruḥ. Travel. Vihāyasā. By traveling in outer space or flying in the sky. Lokān. To the material and spiritual worlds. Lokeṣu. Among the people. Vigata-spṛhāḥ. Without any desire. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahmā said, my four sons, Sanaka, Sanātana, Sanandana and Sanat-kumāra, who were born from my mind, are your predecessors. Sometimes they travel throughout the material and spiritual skies without any definite desire. Purport. When we speak of desire, we refer to desire for material sense gratification. Saintly persons like Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana and Sanat-kumāra have no material desire, but sometimes they travel all over the universe out of their own accord to preach devotional service. Text 13, I'll just chant. Te ekada bhagavato vaikunthasya yayur vaikuntha nilayam sarvalokanamaskritam. Translation. After thus traveling all over the universes, they also entered into the spiritual sky, for they were freed from all material contamination. In the spiritual sky, there are spiritual planets known as Vaikunthas, which are the residents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, and are worshipped by the residents of all the material planets. Purport. The material world is full of cares and anxieties, and any one of the planets, beginning from the highest down to the lowest, Bādala, every living creature must be full of cares and anxieties, because in the material planets one cannot live eternally. The living entities, however, are actually eternal. They want an eternal home, an eternal residence, but because of accepting a temporal abode in the material world, they are naturally full of anxiety. In the spiritual sky, the planets are called Vaikuntha, because the residents of these planets are free from all anxieties. For them there is no question of birth, death, old age, and disease, and therefore they are not anxious. On the other hand, the residents of the material planets are always afraid of birth, death, disease, and old age, and therefore they are full of anxieties. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnana-anjana-shalakaya Chakkhurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Darati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopeshta Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapte Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna-prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vikāsa-swāminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna-prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-vedanta-swāminiti Namine Namaste Sarasvate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripasantubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Just one small thing, sorry. I think it seems like after you rinsed your face, you forgot to put the.
Oh, Krishna.
So, if you could just kindly put the.
I meant to do that.
Sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Can.
One second.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's okay.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very important we wear tilak because it reminds us that we're devotees, or we're trying to be devotees at least. So, one second. So in this verse, Lord Brahma is starting to tell the story to the demigods, the story of the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanatan, Sanandana, and Sanat-kumāra. Lord Brahma is telling the story because the demigods have approached him because they're very distressed. Lord Diti is just engaged in copulation with Kashyapa Muni at an improper time, and thus two demoniac souls have been put in the womb of Diti, and there's auspicious signs happening up all over the universe, and all the demigods are in a lot of anxiety, so they're coming to Lord Brahma. And in the previous verse, so they're coming up to Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma is, okay, let me explain. So then he tells kind of the backstory of these two souls that have come into Diti's womb. Where have they come from? Who are they exactly? So we understand, as we'll read later on, that these personalities are Jai and Vijay, two gatekeepers in Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world. I think all of us know the pastime. You know the pastime too, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways.
I know them, yes, for sure.
Yeah, just so we'll discuss this later in further verses. But anyways, Lord Brahma tells the demigods that he addresses the four Kumaras as their predecessors. So of course the four Kumaras are are they the first progeny of Lord Brahma?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The four Kumaras are the first progeny of Lord Brahma. Was it?
The 9 born sons of Brahma.
Who was Shiva? Shiva was after that, right?
No, after. Shiva was
the first. I think the Kumaras were the first, yeah. So the Kumaras are the first progeny of Lord Brahma. They immediately came out of the womb and wanted to be brahmacharis and didn't want anything to do with the material world. So Lord Brahma was a little fried out with them. So because they weren't attracted to material things, they, anyways, before actually approaching the spiritual world, the Vaikuntha lokas, where they met Jai and Vijay, they were impersonalists, and so they were traveling around the universe like Munis. And in the purport here, Srila Prabhupada is describing how Munis, they have no material desire, but sometimes they travel all over the universe out of their own accord to preach devotional service. So the four Kumaras, they're ahead of the Kumara Sampradaya, which is, there's four main Vaishnava Sampradayas. The Rudra Sampradaya, the Shri Sampradaya, the Brahma Sampradaya, which we fall under, and then the Kumara Sampradaya. And so the four Kumaras, they're acharyas, and they're the predecessors of the demigods, as Lord Brahma is describing. So that's just a little bit about them. But it said sometimes they travel throughout the material and spiritual skies without any definite desires. So they're parivrajakacharyas. So we glorify Srila Prabhupada as parivrajakacarya because this term means one who travels all over the world. Who's the acharya, parivrajaka, traveling everywhere. So like this, 4 Kumaras, they travel all over the material and sometimes spiritual skies out of their own accord to preach devotional service. So this is what traveling book distributors are doing too. This is one way to engage in devotional service, is to travel all over and preach the glories of the Lord. And this is a very valuable service. And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, Lord Krishna describes how no one is more dear to me than that person who speaks, who preaches, which is the 69th verse of the 18th chapter, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So, kind of just going through this little series of verses. Idamte na tapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na cha shushrushave vācam na cha mam yo bhyasuyati. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. In the next verse, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So we may be thinking, oh my gosh, I'm like totally not qualified. This confidential knowledge may never be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, nor to one who is envious of me. So, I mean, many of us, we come from backgrounds totally not fitting this description. You know, austere, people are engaged in all sorts of sense gratification. That's the very aim in life. That's the name of the game. You're born in this world and you're born into the game where you just try to enjoy your senses. You know, you're born as a little person, and then you grow up, you go to school, you make friends, you get into trouble, then you get a job, you get a career, you know, you fulfill your career path, and you retire, you have a family, and like that you live this movie. You know, everybody's they're trying to fit this standard that, you know, we've kind of been pushed into, and we're just it's like a game, it's like a movie, it's some imaginary thing, and that's Maya. It's actually all in the mind, this enjoyment, this position of being a respectable person in society, in whatever subsection of society you may be part of. Everybody's trying to fit some sort of role, play into this game. And nowadays that game means to enjoy your senses in one of the various millions of different kinds of ways. Innumerable ways we can enjoy our senses, innumerable material identities they're coming up with every day. And so this is not an austere life. Why? Because austerity means to take up voluntary hardship. That hardship in this verse specifically means austerity for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because Krishna's basically explaining who's qualified to receive this knowledge is one who takes up some austerity for the sake of this knowledge. It's not that Krishna's talking about the austerities of raising a family or making a lot of money, because there are austerities in that too. I mean, there's austerities in every act in this material world. But Krishna's specifically talking about the austerities of devotional service, the austerities of bhakti. Not that, I mean, on the higher level, bhakti is not austere at all. Bhakti is fully blissful. But for one who's a conditioned soul, the process of sadhana bhakti may be austere, because we have to retrain our minds, we have to apply ourselves strictly to a process. On the higher levels, there's no strictness, because those devotees who are on those higher levels, they are fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. They don't need rules and regulations to, you know, to link them, to, you know, they don't need strict rules and regulations to control their mind, because naturally they're absorbed in Krishna. But some austerity is required in this process of devotional service. And fortunately we're in the society of devotees where such austerity is practiced, rules and regulations are there. And that's to help us become cultured so that we may worship Krishna properly, we may act properly as human beings, and really fulfill the great boon of human life. That is, first of all, living like a human being, but then from that platform we can engage in devotional service and get spiritual association, get spiritually connected. So then Krishna goes on to say, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So some people make the argument that, this means we shouldn't preach to outsiders, because Krishna is saying, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, he didn't say anything about the non-devotees. But in the Sampradaya of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, from the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we understand the real intention of Krishna. And there's I believe it's the 8th and 9th offense in the 10 offenses one shouldn't commit while chanting a holy name. Which one's the 9th offense?
You're talking about the
Shraddhane Purushe.
To explain the glories of the holy name of the Lord to the faithless.
Yeah. Right. So Krishna is discouraging this, that we shouldn't preach the holy names of the Lord to the faithless. That's definitely true. Obviously because it's there in Shastra. But the real import of this verse is that we shouldn't make people who are envious, we shouldn't make them more inimical. Like if we talk too much and tell people things that they aren't ready to hear, words we may speak may have no benefit for them, but may actually act in the opposite way. It's okay. So, yeah. But at the same time, this verse is, Krishna, the truth is that devotees are more kind than Krishna. Because Krishna, he comes to this world, pritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya chadushkritam, dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He comes to this world to annihilate the miscreants and elevate the devotees, to establish the principles of religion. So that's why Krishna comes to this world. But devotees know actually the heart of Krishna, and they go out of their way, more than Krishna even does, to help people, to preach, to save the fallen conditioned souls. So that's the real desire of Krishna. That's the only desire. That's the desire of Srimati Radharani actually, to bring people to Krishna, because Krishna enjoys the very purpose of the jiva's existence is to give Krishna enjoyment, and so Krishna enjoys the association of the purified jiva. So Srimati Radharani desires the pleasure of Krishna, so she arranges so that the fallen conditioned souls can come and serve Krishna. So like this, we're completely at the mercy of Srimati Radharani in trying to please Krishna. So that's the mood of Srimati Radharani, and the devotees, they take that up actually in preaching, and that they want Krishna to enjoy everybody. Everybody's a part and parcel of Krishna, but people in this world are completely forgetting that, and they're suffering in this material world, and that's not pleasing to Krishna, but Krishna's renounced. That's one of his opulences. So he's, okay, they can do what they want to do, and that's that. But the devotees know, Krishna would actually enjoy this person if this person were to, and this person would be happy. And that's, Krishna wants us to be happy. And so the devotees, they engage others in Krishna's service, like this. So, Krishna and Radharani, they combine in the incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most merciful incarnation. And I'm speaking about all this because in the Bhagavatam verse it's talking about preaching. The 4 Kumaras, they travel all over the universe to preach pure devotional service. So I'm just trying to explain why exactly devotees do that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited this. You know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the combination of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. And in the famous pastime Saving Jagai and Madhai, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is glorified for being the most magnificent incarnation. And somewhere in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, there's some sort of verses, maybe Prabhu knows or somebody knows, verses that describe, you know, Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill. Krishna did all these miraculous things, these superhuman things. But none of these things are as glorious as the deliverance of Jagai and Madhai. Do you know this? It may not be a verse. Anyways, I've heard Guru Maharaj say this kind of thing, so it's a bona fide statement. But just a side point, in trying to find this verse, because I knew the verse was somewhere. I think it's somewhere. AI told me it's in. ChatGPT told me it's in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. And of course, I tried to verify that by looking through the edition we have, and then looking through some other ones online. And the verses AI told me are completely non-existent. They're not there at all.
Oh man.
And then I looked up the Bengali text it gave me. I looked that up in another AI, and they said, "Oh, this is nowhere to be found." Blah blah blah. I looked up all the things in the database. So tried to find the verses. It seems that AI just completely made up these verses.
Yeah. That's what they do.
And then also I was trying to find verses. I apologize. I don't have my notebook because I couldn't find any references. I spent all the time trying to verify things with AI, but it's all bogus. But I was trying to find a verse of all. I also know this is there. Srila Prabhupada said this, but I don't know where. That of all Krishna's qualities, his topmost quality is his mercy, or his compassion. So I also tried to find that, and it told me some Bhagavatam verse that wasn't actually the Bhagavatam verse, the reference it gave me. And the quotes it was telling me, Srila Prabhupada said this, and he said this, they're nowhere to be found. So anyways, it appears to, just a side point, don't trust AI when you're preparing for class. Always double check things, because it seems it completely made up everything it told me. So yeah, just a side point. But the point is that of all of Krishna's qualities, his mercifulness is the most important. Why is it the most important? Well, one reason is it emphasizes the most important is that that is completely necessary for the devotees. So the mercy of Krishna is completely necessary for us. That's our very sustenance, is we're living off of the mercy of Krishna, especially when we're practicing devotional service. We're all at the mercy of Krishna. That's what it means to practice bhakti yoga and be sheltered under Krishna, is that you're fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. That's what it means to be surrendered. So it's most important in the sense that it's most relevant for us. Out of all Krishna's qualities, that's that's the one that will save us. Another reason why Krishna's mercifulness is his most important quality is because if somebody can tell me, why does Krishna exist?
To enjoy.
For his devotees.
Yeah, for his devotees. So anyways, our Guru Maharaj Bhakti Vikas Maharaj was here, and he said that in the lecture. He asked everybody, why does Krishna exist? Everybody's like, because he's Satchidananda and all this, but Krishna exists for his devotees, simply put. That's Krishna's very heart, that's his life and soul, is his loving relationships with his devotees. And so Krishna's mercifulness really inspires the devotees, and the devotees thrive off this mercifulness, and due to Krishna's mercy, devotees become happy. And Krishna lives for his devotees. Krishna wants to see his devotees happy. So therefore also mercifulness is his most important quality, even for himself, because Krishna's very life and soul, if you will, is his devotees. So I wish I had some, Shastra Pramanam to quote why Krishna's mercifulness is his most important quality, and maybe others can share after. but those are some reasons I can just think of off the top of my head. Sorry, I couldn't find anything Prabhupada said. I know it's there somewhere. But yeah, going on to the next verse. The next verse is talking about the anxieties of the material world. So, yeah, it's describing how, the four Kumaras, they're traveling around. They went to the spiritual sky, the Vaikunthas. And in the Purport, Prabhupada talks about how the material world is full of cares and anxieties. How even from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest planet in the material world, all of them are full of anxieties. Why? Because they're temporary. And we're so clinging to these bodies. We experience some pain in these bodies, and it's really surreal, and it really captivates our attention. And it's we can't really imagine our existence outside of these bodies. But existence is certainly there because the spirit soul never dies. We pass from body to body. Even in this body, we've gone through so many different bodies, even in this one life. From boyhood to youthhood to old age. Passing through so many different sets of cells. So we're totally outside of this body, but somehow we're thinking we are this body, and the nature of time is that this body is slipping through our fingertips like sand, like picking up sand. So anyways, I'd like to read some verses from the Rudra Gita in the 4th canto. There's a series of verses at the end. The Lord Shiva chants, starting with text 65, the 24th chapter. Sa esha lokānati chandravego vikarshasi tvam kalukālayanaha bhutani bhutarno meya tattva ghanavalir vishahyaha. My dear Lord, your absolute authority cannot be directly experienced, but one can guess by seeing the activities of the world that everything is being destroyed in due course of time. The force of time is very strong, and everything is being destroyed by something else, just as one animal is being eaten by another animal. Time scatters everything, exactly as the wind scatters clouds in the sky. So, what's the verse? Pearls strung on a thread. How does it start?
Which one? In Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Sutre manigana iva. Matah parataram nanyat kincit asti dhananjaya mayi sarvamidam proktam sutre manigana iva.
So it's described in the Bhagavad Gita how this world is like the pearls, and the thread is like Krishna. So Krishna is sustaining all the universes. But the thing about a necklace, like pearls on a thread, is that you can't see the thread. You can see the pearls. So similarly, we can see this world around us, but Krishna is actually underlying everything. Krishna is the resting place, the support of all of existence. So in this verse, Lord Shiva is saying that your absolute authority can't be directly experienced, but we can experience Krishna's authority through perceiving the activities of this world. Namely that everything is being destroyed in due course of time. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, time I am the destroyer of all. So this is one way of perceiving Krishna, and particularly for the atheists, for those who neglect Krishna, neglect God. God comes in the form of death, because death is like the absolute authority. You may do whatever you want in this world, but then one day you're driving down the street, you're on the way to fulfill your big plans, and all of a sudden your life flashes before your eyes and you get in a car wreck. And it could just be over just like that, within a second, completely unexpected. All of our life leading up to this point could just be just completely insignificant. So time is the supreme authority in this world, because Krishna is time. And yeah, we could perceive how just as one animal is being eaten by another, time scatters everything, just like the wind scatters clouds in the sky. Ramatam uchar iti krita chintaya pravriddha lobhang vishayeshu lalasam Tvamapramatta sahasabhipadyase kule lihano hirivakumantakaha. My dear Lord, all living entities within this material world are mad after planning for things, and they're always busy with the desire to do this or that. This is due to uncontrollable greed. The greed for material enjoyment is always existing in the living entity. But your lordship is always alert, and in due course of time you strike him, just as a snake seizes a mouse and very easily swallows him. So yeah, this is again eliminating the point of time and death and how helpless we are trying to be controllers and enjoyers in this world where, you know, everything's out of our hands. You know, we're just one insignificant living entity among millions, countless other insignificant living entities, and everybody's trying to have their way. But, you know, that's not how we simply fight each other, trying to all have our way. Everybody thinks it should be done like this, others think it should be done like that. Even in Krishna consciousness, in management especially, sometimes even the smallest things can tick us off and cause conflict with each other. I mean, this is Kali Yuga. People fight over the most insignificant things. Vishnu Prabhu was talking about the other day, cow protection, how, you know, out of all the devotees, all the people in the world that are interested in cow protection, it's such a few number, relatively speaking, but then out of the devotees who are actually, you know, doing it, it's like a minority. But within the minority, there's so much conflict. Devotees get into, you know, problems, and it should be done like this, no, it should be done like that, and in the meantime, nothing happens. So, everybody's trying to have their way in this world, but at some point we have to surrender. You know, sometimes we have to be unattached. No matter what our position is, no matter what our opinion is, we should be detached and be willing to accept whatever, setting aside our egos. Knowing that we're all insignificant living entities. I've seen, you know, devotees fight about, you know, maybe deity standards or kitchen standards, or, you know, it should be done like this, you know, the water pot should be like on the left, no, the water pot should be on the right, and it's, you know, it can get super nitpicky, but yeah, ultimately we just have to try our best, and sometimes we have to set aside our ego and just kind of surrender to the authority or the general opinion of the devotees. So that's just a side point, but the point I'm making is that we're all insignificant living entities, and our plans are completely futile. Ultimately, I mean, everything is the plan of Krishna. Everything that happens is the plan of Krishna. We may want it to happen this way or that way, but everything is ultimately sanctioned by the Lord, and not a blade of grass moves without Krishna's sanction. So, I guess I could read a little bit of the purport here. Everyone is greedy, and everyone makes plans for material enjoyment. In his lust for material enjoyment, the living entity is described as a madman. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudhatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities which are in actuality carried out by material nature. So actually this mind we have, the bodies we have, it's all due to our karma. You know, the color hair we have, even the color shoes we have. We may think, no, I chose those shoes, but no. Your mind is a product of material energy, and you've received your mind due to your karma. And so we've been placed in these minds, we've been placed with whatever particular intelligence we have. We've been placed in these situations simply due to our karma. And karma is like what's that verse? Machine. It's a machine made of material energy. what's that verse? Ishvara sarva bhuta. Yeah, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridesha tishtati Brahmā and sarva bhutani yantrarudhani mayaya. So yantra is a machine. This material energy is like a machine. So these bodies, even the mind is like a machine. The mind has certain thought patterns. It thinks in a particular way. Everybody's different like that. But it's all mechanical. Actually, it's dead. Even the mind, even the intelligence, it's dead. But it's the spirit soul behind all that that's empowering everything. So yeah, we're thinking we're the doer of activities. We're thinking we're doing this or that, but actually everything's carried out by material nature. Everything is enacted by the laws of nature, and these laws are under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The atheists or unintelligent men do not know this. They are busy making their own plans, and big nations are busy expanding their empires. And yet we know that in due course of time, many empires have come into existence and been destroyed. Many aristocratic families were created by people in their extreme madness. But we can see that in the course of time, those families and empires have all been destroyed. So in the particular time and place that we're in right now, Kali Yuga, specifically America, kind of society, cultural values kind of inherited from England. Srila Prabhupada saying here, many aristocratic families were created by people in their extreme madness. So we can see the madness around the world, especially prevalent in the modern age, being pushed by social media, being pushed by, capitalism and everything going on. It's all coming from mad people, all the values we have. And, I was talking with somebody and they were expressing their doubts in Krishna consciousness, specifically the doubts of, like, the Srimad Bhagavatam describes how, Lord Brahmā has 4 heads, for instance. So, how does that make sense? How can someone who's, like, interdimensional or something, or, completely body made out of intelligence, but he has 4 heads, we can't make sense of this with our material minds. And we've been culturally programmed, we've been trained to think in that way where, everything, I believe I have to perceive it directly. And if I can't see things with my eyes, like my mundane eyes, then it doesn't exist. And this is kind of how we're brought up in modern society. But if you look at societies in the past, all sorts of societies, they believed in, whatever it be, ghosts and spirits, or like gods and sun gods and this god and that god, spirits of the river and the mountain, all these things. If you look at almost every culture, I mean, I don't know of any culture that didn't have these elements of spirituality. Yeah, if you look at almost every culture, they have these elements of spirituality. And modern empiricists will say, that's because they were less advanced, and now we're at like the peak, the pinnacle of the human evolution, where our minds are super strong and whatnot, but actually people are completely weak. Their senses are completely dull because of their terrible lifestyle, and then they want to go ahead and say that we're more advanced. But people like I didn't even know how to sit up straight until like maybe a year ago. So I really made a conscious effort. Like, people are completely dull. We don't know how to live in our bodies, even eating all sorts of crap and not digesting food before we eat more, and people are completely insane, actually. So driven by sense gratification, and they want to go ahead and say that we're more advanced now, but there's so many mental diseases. People can't live with themselves. People are trying to change their identity because they're completely insecure about their material situation. They're completely embarrassed. They want to just hide away in a mask. People are not content, and they want to go ahead and say that they're the most advanced. But this is not the case. So anyways, we see the mad world around us, and we see the people who are giving knowledge in the schools nowadays. You know, and the knowledge is always changing, of course. You know, 50 years ago they said the single cell organism was very simple, we can replicate in the laboratory soon. But the more and more they studied, the more and more advanced they realized that the single cell is. The more you zoom in with a microscope, you just see it is just as complex. You zoom in a little bit more, you think it'll just be, you know, you zoom into one thing, you think it'll remain one thing, but then that one thing has so many things inside, and that's just like how the world works. It's infinitely complex, and we can't understand it like that, you know, trying to look at it with a microscope. Yet they propose these things, and even though it may seem, you know, by rejecting things in the Srimad Bhagavatam, by doubting the fact that Lord Brahma has 4 heads, we may think ourselves more intelligent because we're using our logic. Well, I haven't seen someone with 4 heads, therefore no one has 4 heads. You know, this may seem very logical and intelligent, but the whole method of thinking like that is a cultural programming. It's you know, it's just how we're brought up. Our language, the society around us. You know, we went through 12 years at least of schooling, and what is that schooling? It's, you know, it's all just training us to think in a certain way. So we need to recognize at least that we're conditioned in this way, and we need to doubt the mind. You know, we need to we shouldn't have blind faith in our own mind. We shouldn't have blind faith in the, you know, the scientists, you know, just the people in the world that say this or that, because there's so many people out there saying all sorts of different things, and we need to decide. We need to decide for ourselves who is the authority who we're going to follow, who can we put our trust in. And you know, like we were saying, they thought the single cell organism was super simple, but then soon they found out, oh, it's like completely the opposite. And like this, there's so many things, your knowledge is always changing. So what intelligent man would put their faith in such people who, you know, they should have lost their trust because they propagated so many false things that have been changed, debunked over time. So they should have lost their trust by this, you know, so-called scientific method, which is completely subjective and completely prone to the imperfect senses. So we should put our faith in the spiritual master. We should put our faith in the Shastra. We should put our faith in Lord Chaitanya. We should put our faith in the devotees around us, because this we can factually see these are people who are purified. If not purified, they're becoming purified. People with fully good intentions. You know, people don't even recognize that lust, greed, and anger is a problem. You know, once we start to recognize that, then the process of purification can begin. And so these kind of pure people are who we should place our faith in. Otherwise, you know, there's so many cheaters in the world. You know, so many cheaters. Almost everybody. Just to buy something, you have to do a whole bunch of research, because everybody's trying to cheat you at every step. Because, you know, money's the name of the game. No one cares about Dharma. So anyways, just a little bit about this modern so-called civilization and how everybody's thinking they're the enjoyer, they're the doer, but in actuality they're just insignificant, and we're just insignificant. And if we're just materialists and we're trying to prosper in this material world, you know, we'll just be seized by time, just as a snake seizes a mouse. But the thing is, for the devotee, there's no death actually. And why is that? Is because, like it's describing, in the Vaikuntha world, there's no birth, death, old age, and disease. So actually we can have Vaikuntha consciousness, or we can be in Vrindavan at this moment by absorbing our consciousness in that. When we absorb our consciousness in something eternal, then we're not absorbed in the temporary world. And then when the body goes, it's just like the blink of an eye. It doesn't matter. And so like that, the devotee doesn't die because the devotee doesn't identify with that which dies. The body dies, but the devotee is on the spiritual platform, and the devotee knows that he is not the body, and he's on that platform, and so therefore he doesn't die, because, you know, remains aloof from the material world, being in this world but not of this world. And so we should strive to be on such a platform, like the four Kumaras, and you know, we may travel around the three worlds distributing books or preaching, go down to the subterranean hellish planets and do scientific preaching. I'm sure they need it because they're very technologically advanced. I don't know. That was kind of stupid.
Think so.
Yeah, maybe. Kind of a joke, but who knows. So anyways, Hare Krishna. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
a couple of things.
Do you have a television mic to do?
Yeah, there's no mic. It's been not working. Anyways, well, it was 2 points. So one, it's really interesting with reading like Prabhupada's books, and then of course we hear it so many times, and then you reflect on it, it's like, wow, like how we're living prior to coming to Krishna consciousness, and how karmis are living on like a day-to-day basis. It actually is like a disease condition.
Yeah.
You know, it's materially, like you can justify that like so many ways, and then like of course spiritually with the fact that, you know, we're living averse to like our actual position, our constitutional position. So anyways, I feel like that's one of those things. It's like there's a lot of points that Prabhupada makes like over and over and over again, like especially but like how we're not the body. It's like one of those things like, okay, yeah, I've heard this so many times, but it's like when you really like think about it, it's like, wow, no, like especially that specific point about like this totally improper way that people live their lives. It's like, wow, yeah, it's really easy to forget because mind is strong, and you know that thought might not always be prevalent when we see, you know, people on a day-to-day basis, which we of course, like as temple devotees, we might not always see people on a day-to-day basis, but that point is there, that it just speaks to that forgetfulness of the living entity. It's really crazy. The other thing I was going to say is you're speaking of this nature of doubt. Excuse me, and like we always have doubts coming to Krishna consciousness. Like you said, I've spoken to different people who've come in and gone within the short amount of time I've been here. You know, just about doubt is like always like there, especially in the beginning, and doubt is a function of the intelligence. But Prabhupada makes a point. I wanted to read this from this purport, that doubt is there, but at the point that one establishes themselves to be like a reputable authority, that doubt isn't actually useful anymore. So it can be, I'll read it. This is Canto 3, Chapter 26, Verse 30. Doubt, misapprehension, correct apprehension, memory, and sleep, as determined by their different functions, are said to be the distinct characteristics of intelligence. And the first paragraph states that doubt is one of the important functions of intelligence. Blind acceptance of something does not give evidence of intelligence. Therefore, the word samshaya is very important. In order to cultivate intelligence, one should be doubtful in the beginning, but doubting is not very favorable when information is received from the proper source. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that doubting the words of the authority is the cause of destruction. So we can see how quickly it can turn into something that's not conducive to spiritual life if that doubt isn't, you know, actually addressed. So, anyways, that's all I had.
Yeah, you're talking about if there's anything about the merciful nature of Krishna. Maharaj gives a series of lectures on Sharanagati, and then Atma Nivedana 1, Na Korilun Karma, Jnana Nahi Bhelo. So Maharaj speaks on this name of Krishna, Dina Dayamoy. So, and then I'm just going to read an excerpt from that. Krishna has many such names: Dina Dayal, Dina Vatsala, Dina Na, Dina Bandhu. Krishna is well known as the friend of the fallen. He is very merciful. Fallen means that if one considers himself fallen and comes before Krishna, Krishna is very kind to him. It's not that one should think, all right, let me go do sinful activities and then Krishna will be more pleased. Rather, one's attitude should be one should live a very pure life, and at the same time think I'm very fallen and lonely. Then he says that the mercy that is completely pure, and then this is reference to the Sharanagati song. In this material world, people may show mercy to others, and that's not pure. They show kindness to others for their own sense gratification. They may be thinking, well, I will get some advantage back from this person in the future. We see people, they're friendly with each other, just what advantage they can get from each other. Or we see some people, they're great philanthropists, but they're very anxious that people will praise them for their charitable activities. But Krishna's mercy is not like that. Krishna has nothing to get from us. Nor does he care for the praise of others. Already he is praised by everybody. He doesn't need to do anything to become praiseworthy. So Krishna giving his mercy to us, that is completely pure, that is simply out of his causeless mercy, his own kindness. So yeah, I've been listening to Sharanagati a lot, so.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I had a couple of things I wanted to ask. So I wanted to maybe get some of your takes on like the whole thing about not telling people about Krishna consciousness, and like how you shouldn't explain it to people that they don't want to.
Oh yeah, the offense.
Yeah, because like when I first got into Krishna consciousness, I was like trying to tell everybody about it, and like I was like preaching to everybody.
Yeah, great.
But then I like got terrible results with that. First of all, people were just like no. But then I realized like you're not supposed to do that, and it makes perfect sense to me. So perfectly where now like where I'm at, like I don't like care to like tell anybody about it. Like I give out books maybe to like family and friends and stuff like that. But like I honestly just like keep my lips zipped on it, and just even if like I don't really tell anybody anything about it unless they like kind of ask questions. But like, what do you guys think about that?
Yeah. So we should preach. We should tell people about Krishna.
Yeah.
Because that's the mood of Lord Chaitanya, right? Lord Nityananda especially. And as we talked in the class, being merciful, and the verse itself was about preaching, traveling around the world to preach. But at the same time, we shouldn't preach to the envious, because that's one of the offenses. So, yeah, we should have some discrimination. Who's ready, who's not ready. One thing I could speak practically, like my experience, is in book distribution. If there's so many people at the airport, for instance. There's so many people that you could talk to. If you end up using your time to argue with like someone who's just kind of stuck up or something, then you're wasting others' opportunity who are potentially like more friendly and more open-minded, or more pure, ready to receive this. So like we may like practically speaking, I could say in book distribution we shouldn't waste our time dealing with unfavorable people where there's no good result. So we should say like what could be the result of this. In the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 17, it talks about what is the austerity of speech. So one should control their body, their mind, and their speech. And the austerity of speech is that we speak only those things that are beneficial. So that's the instruction of Bhagavad Gita, is that we should speak what's beneficial. So for someone who's more envious, we may just say, "Good afternoon, how are you? Good. Okay, nice to meet you, goodbye." It may be the most beneficial thing to say. You're not like rubbing each other in the wrong way, not wasting time, but then also, you have to see, like kind of like see if someone's receptive. If they are receptive, then you give as much to them as they can take.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is for their benefit. Whatever we should always like, living in general, we should like always think, what am I doing right now? Is it beneficial?
Yeah.
For my ultimate, not just for today, but like in the grand scheme of things, is this something I should be doing? So in speaking to others too, who we speak with, how long we speak to them, how much we tell.
So you kind of have to feel the situation.
Yeah, it's totally feeling the situation, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everybody's a mango, but some are ripe and some are not ripe. So sometimes you have to like let it sit on the shelf,
Thanks for that.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I have to go to the airport. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatripascha kripasindhubhyavicha patitana bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srimad Bhagavatam ki
Jai.
Yay.